Welcome to Purposely Peaceful. I'm your host, Jessica Rivera, a licensed marriage and family therapist and a quantum hypnosis practitioner. This podcast is where real life meets inner peace. You'll get honest conversations, practical tools, and soulful guidance to help you live with more clarity, calm, and purpose. Hey everyone, welcome back. This episode is about what to do when the world is in complete chaos. Everything is crazy. Everything that we're seeing on our TVs and our phones, and perhaps even in our personal lives. It seems to me like 2020 was the kickoff year when the world started to turn up the volume, get really loud, and more now than ever, we are being exposed to chaos. Whether it's in our neighborhood or the craziness of the files being released that are rocking Hollywood, the news is in our hands, literally. I don't watch the news, but the algorithm will still make sure that I don't miss out on anything. It's probably done on purpose. It's hard to look away. Why? Because when there's drama, the ego wants to see what's going on. A lot of people are experiencing a battle of the heart, where the ego craves to know more and wants to hear it all, tragic or not. And the heart says, this is too much to bear. I don't even want to look, but I feel like I have to look. This makes you incredibly human. But it's also confusing because there's no handbook that tells us how to get through it, how to navigate this feeling. Not always, but this leads us to the blame game. When there's a lot of chaos, people are pointing fingers. They feel called, like they have to pick a side and they have to believe it or not believe it. They have to be on this side or that side because this one's good and that one's bad. But that's not the way that I'm choosing. So why am I not choosing that? Because blame has never truly brought me any peace, or matter of fact, nor has it brought any peace to anyone that I have ever worked with. Blaming is the antithesis of peace. I'm not going to focus on specific details because this could apply to so many different areas of our lives, but blaming does not bring peace. If anything, it creates more separation and heartache. It keeps us stuck in the problem, feeling helpless and powerless. But that is not what we are. There's this movie, it's a kid's movie. What is it called? I think it's Horton Hears a Who. Oh, it's like a little tiny speck that lives on this little like dandelion, and there's like a whole world on it. And anyway, so that reminds me that we are these tiny specks on this earth, and we're even smaller in contrast to the size of the universe. And as true as that might be, we still have the power to create impact. Energetically, we are all connected. There's enough science out there proving that much, that we are floating molecules, atoms, whatever they're called. It creates the appearance of this body. I'm not a scientist or haven't taken a science class in a really long time, but I just remember learning that if you got a super duper microscope and you zoomed into our hand or any part of our body, enough that we would just be like these tiny little floating atoms or something. Nothing is truly solid. My interpretation of that is that we are energy. These little things that are moving around that make us us, we are energy. I have not recently researched this, so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. We know that our mood can impact the people around us, right? I always know when my husband's in a bad mood. We can pick up on someone else's bad vibes, right? You go meet someone and you're kind of like, I don't know. Something's not sitting right about that person. Okay, when we feel those things, that's all energy at work. Every time I'm thinking of reaching out to my best friend, Heather, she somehow manages to send me a message every single time when I'm thinking of her. But all this to say that what we think, what we do, it matters. If you're wondering how we return to center, back to our peace, then hear me out. It's okay to tap into the chaos from time to time, so you can see what in the world is happening. To take a moment to acknowledge that it is in fact chaos and pure overwhelm out there. I haven't spent much time reading up on any of the things that are going on in the media, at least what's happening in my world. And I'll be honest, I haven't spent much time reading up on the Epstein files or catching any updates on any local or global politics. I do not spend a lot of time there. I do every so often check in, see what's going on, because I don't feel very informed. This keeps me from forming a really informed opinion. I don't really have one. All I know is just it's crazy out there, it's madness. There's just such a range of things that people are hearing, and I know that it's not just me because a lot of my clients are talking about what they're seeing in the world, and everybody's having a different interpretation of what they're experiencing. But I think it's important that we at least acknowledge that it's happening because the truth sets us free. Everybody has a different truth of what they believe. But I think it's important to realize that's negative information, or that's confusing information, or that information is making me question everything. And that's okay to spend time there. This is how we strengthen our discernment, is to spend time hearing different information and then deciding where do I sit within it and how do I want to move with it. This kind of information doesn't usually bring any peace. It may create a moment for you to acknowledge potential truths. It's good to question everything. But, and this is a really big but, you don't want to stay in the chaos. After all, you're seeking peace within yourself, not anywhere else. So it's okay to tap in, take a pulse check of the world, and then determine for yourself, where do I go from here? Because how you interpret what you experience and what you see, it will impact you. And we have to ask ourselves, when we see upsetting or hard information, how long do we want to be upset for? Chaos is hardly ever funny, nor is it known for making us feel better. Like I said, it's okay to tap into the chaos, observe, choose the vibe that you would prefer to be a part of. Choose the mood that you would prefer to be a part of. So that means I acknowledge what I don't like, what is hard, and I choose peace anyway. And in my case, I'm choosing peace, love, and joy. I had a client once say, joy is the resistance. And I love how clearly and easily it communicated that despite how crazy, chaotic, and overwhelming the world can be, we can choose a cause to stand for. In this case, it's to choose joy. By choosing joy, we return to our peace. We become the calm that we wish to see in the world. Leading by example, or in this case, leading by peace. If energy is everywhere, right? So why not be the anchors for others by learning how to stay in peace, love, and joy? Because if we inevitably impact each other, let's be part of the solution. Let's take some personal responsibility here and decide how we want to contribute to this experience. And I know I've mentioned this before in other episodes, but our inner conflict, the things that we are struggling with inside of us, that is the clutter that we want to clear. That is how we become truly purposely peaceful. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't go stand for a worthy cause. Each person has something they believe in, myself included. We have the freedom to choose fear, hate, love, or peace. We always have a choice. And it's okay that we start off with anger and hatred and then learn to find our way to love and joy. There are many ways to arrive at peace. Accepting what is does not mean that we condone for awful things to happen, but simply an understanding that life unfolds as it does. It just does. Things just happen. And part of peace is learning acceptance that there is craziness in the world, that there is chaos, that perhaps there is some level of evil. It just is. And my hope is that when you encounter chaos, that you find your way back to yourself, to the truth of who you are, that the goodness inside of you takes the lead. Sometimes we get sucked into what's happening, the drama, the chaos. But let's not get stuck there and then let it be. If something that I'm saying here isn't matching, find your own version of resistance, one that brings you hope. In my case, peace is the resistance. I will not add to the chaos, but I will be part of the solution in the best way that I can. I can't imagine how I could help someone suffering or overwhelmed by telling them to stay in it and learn to live in it, I feel like that would be cruel. I always tell my clients I'm a little biased because I'm the kind of person that if you tell me you have hopes and dreams and this is what you want to do in the world, I'm going to be rooting for you. I'm going to be cheering you on and I'm going to be asking you questions. I'm going to apply that gentle pressure to get to that point of removing the blocks that are stopping you from achieving something. This is why being purposely peaceful is so important to me. That even when my life feels chaotic and overwhelming, I eventually return to peace. I feel like life is pulling me away from the time that I need to create this show. But now that I'm coming back, I'm recording right now, I remember why I love this so much. Now I realize I probably missed it. I probably needed this. So if you feel the call in your heart to do something that you love, that you enjoy, that brings you peace, here's your friendly reminder to return to it. I am so glad to be back. Thank you so much for listening. I'll catch you guys on the next one.